Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Package Tourist, hosted by yours truly, the Package Tourist and the magical mystery tour called Life, Matthew DiBiase. Tonight's guest is author Mark Kram Sr. For the past 36 years, Mark has been a legend in sports writing circles for his brilliant writing for the Philadelphia Daily News, the Detroit Free Press, and the Baltimore News American. He has also contributed book reviews for the New York Times and other international publications. Mark was born to be a great writer. His father, Mark Kram Sr., was a distinguished author and writer for Sports Illustrated and was at ringside for many of the great fights during the 1970s. Mark published his first book, Like Any Normal Day, A Story of Devotion, in 2012, which also won the 2013 PEN/ESPN Award for Literary Sports Writing. And Mark has won other numerous literary awards for his magnificent contributions to sports writing. Then, in June 2019, he released his third book, Smoking Joe, The Life of Joe Frazier. Today marks the 50th anniversary of the Thrilla in Manila, the third and final bout between Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali. Tonight's show will commemorate that bout and the life of former heavyweight champion Joe Frazier. Mark, welcome back. It's great to have you here on again.
I'm delighted to be with you, Matthew. I just want to throw in one thing. My dad was at ringside for the Thrilla in Manila, and he covered that for Sports Illustrated. In fact, he wrote one of the really one of the most memorable sports stories of the last century. I mean, it was widely acclaimed, and if anyone has a chance, they should look it up. It's really a gorgeous piece of reportage.
Absolutely. Mark, let's set the stage. After Muhammad Ali had beaten George Foreman to regain the heavyweight title, who set up the third fight with Joe Frazier? Was it Ali's camp or was it Frazier's camp?
Well, the third Frazier fight was a natural place to go for both fighters. They had fought twice before, and they had each won one of the fights, and so a rubber match was widely called for. They had gone back and forth since their first fight, quite a bit. So there was a lot of exchange between the two camps. So exactly who called who? I don't necessarily know offhand, but it was a sense that we had to get this done.
Okay. Why was Manila in the Philippines the venue for the fight? I mean, were other venues considered? How did Manila was chosen to be the site for the bout?
Well, Madison Square Garden wanted the fight. That had been the site of the first two Ali-Frazier fights. However, by that time in his career, Ali was, and his promoter, Don King, they were dealing with countries rather than particular promoters and venues. Ali, as you remember, fought Foreman in Zaire.
Yeah. And
he fought, Joe fought down in San Juan. He fought Foreman down in San Juan, where he lost the title. Ali was, at that point, was fighting all over the world. So basically, we had a situation where governments were able to put up far more money than individual arenas and sites. So that's basically what it came down to. King was dealing with governments by that point.
Okay. Mark, so much has been written about Muhammad Ali's psychological warfare against Joe Frazier. When you were doing your research for your bio on Joe, what is your analysis of it all? You know, I mean, is it accurate to say that Ali, for all of his entertaining value, also had a dark side to him? What is your personal analysis based on your research?
Oh, most definitely, but both of them had a dark side, for sure. My old colleague at the Daily News, the legendary Stan Hochman, who covered the two fighters closely, particularly Joe, he made the comment that, which I agree with, is that he said that Ali and Frazier brought out the best of each other inside the ring and the worst of each other outside of the ring. Some of it was done for as a promotional ploy. But Joe had a thin skin, and and it did get it did get ratcheted up over the period of 4 years between the first and third fight, particularly leading up to the Thrill in Manila, where Ali got downright ugly in his public pronouncements about Joe, calling him a gorilla, calling him ignorant, calling him ugly, all sorts of vilifications that were, Joe just infuriate. By the time Joe stepped in the ring, he wanted to tear Ali's head off.
Yeah.
And you'll remember, of course, the fight they got onto before the second fight on the television set, the Howard Cosell interview, where Joe got up and challenged Ali on live TV, and they ended up wrestling on the floor, the concrete floor of the studio. So there was particular bad blood between the two, although. They were very much tied to each other. As Stan said, they brought out the best of each other in the ring, and it's hard to imagine what either of their careers would be without the other. So, there's a love-hate thing going on most in all situations, I'd say.
In a sense, it was like it's a collision course. There are moments in history, not just sports history, but political or even military history. Two figures are on a collision course with one another, and sooner or later, it's inevitable. They have to face one another. In a sense, that's an accurate analogy.
Yes, that's pretty much true. Ali, as you'll remember, was a polarizing force in the country at that time. He was considered a draft dodger. In fact, he'd been exiled from boxing for 3.5 years, stripped of his title. And there was a lot of people, particularly white America, viewed him as a contaminant. Thought he was, just basically a big social problem, to boil it down to that. And Ali himself really wanted no part of the white race at that time. He was very much tied in with the Nation of Islam. And so there was a real racial undercurrent going on at the time regarding Ali. And Joe, many of the fight fans and the American public ended up gravitating to Joe because they thought he was the perfect candidate to knock Ali's head off.
Yep.
And so you had that tension going on between the two fighters in the country. And in my book, Smoke and Joe, I make the point that, Ali and Frazier found themselves in the crosshair of an argument that was far larger than themselves, kind of a social unrest that sort of grew up around them. And it was like, in the end, as I say in the book, we've ended up finding out more about ourselves than we've found out about either of them. We really showed shined a light on our racial animus towards one another, and we really revealed who we were. In many ways, what's going on today in today's political climate. People have been stripped bare of who they are, given their allegiances and so forth. And so there's no secret anymore who everybody is. So I see a certain parallel, and I also see a little parallel between Trump and Ali. Ali was not nearly the dark figure that Trump is by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, he was a very kind man in many ways, and a very lovely man in many ways. But he understood what it took to get people squirming in their seats, getting fans ignited. He understood the red meat concept of promotion. And I think that's been adopted since then by many politicians and other entertainers. This notion of getting crowds riled up, and I think we've seen a lot of that since Ali. Not much before, although that's not exactly true. I said certain politicians throughout history have certainly been guilty of that, but I think Ali popularized that phenomenon.
Okay. How did Eddie Futch become Joe Frazier's trainer, and what happened to Yank Durham?
Well, Eddie was based on the West Coast, and as Joe, in the early in his career, in 1966, 67, as he was making his move through the heavyweight ranks, Yank Durham, who was a Philly trainer, saw that he needed. He understood the talent that he had on his hands with Joe, and he felt like he needed someone to take over the technical teaching part of the camp. And there was none better than Eddie Futch. He was a consummate tactician. He was superb at choosing opponents for fighters, not overmatching them, but not undermatching them either. So Yank brought Eddie aboard as a trainer, and then when Yank died in I think it was 1972 or early 73.
Yeah,
I'm not sure which. He had a heart attack and died. I think it was a heart attack.
Yeah.
Before he died, he got Eddie to promise to take care of my boy. Well, I think he certainly did that, and demonstrated that at the end of the Thrill in Manila.
Yeah.
Where he pulled Joe from the jaws of possible death.
Yeah.
Had he allowed him to go into the 50th round. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Eddie took on a larger role when Yank died.
Okay. Now let's talk about preparation. When he was doing his training for the Thrill in Manila, did Joe change any of his tactics from the previous two bouts? I mean, what was his tactical approach going into the third fight, as you recall it?
Well, it was sort of the same old Joe, bob and weave, try to get in on Ali's chest, don't give him any room to throw his jab, and just keep coming in over and over, bearing in. He was like he was unstoppable that way. He would take three punches so he could deliver one. He was constantly on the attack.
Yeah.
And he was that way in the first two fights, and again in Manila, he was relentless in his aggression.
Now, in the third fight, Ali used the rope-a-dope against Joe Frazier. How did Joe counteract the rope-a-dope, based on your analysis?
Well, I mean, he did use it to some extent, but not to the extent that he used it in the Foreman fight. He more or less basically got Foreman to wear down just by sitting on the ropes and leaning out over the ropes and putting his arms up and letting Foreman, basically just punch himself out.
Yeah.
That was less of I don't think Joe fell for that ploy in Manila, and I don't think it was used to any great extent. If I can recall properly, it doesn't stand out.
I mean, Joe's stamina was very good. It wasn't costing him his stamina, correct?
No, not at all. Not at all. Joe, both the fighters straightened their asses off for the fight. They were in great shape.
And looking back, when you look at the tapes of the Thrill in Manila, in your opinion, what was Joe Frazier's best round in the Thrill in Manila? His best round?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, he picked up, as the previous two fights, Ali got off to a fast start, and Joe was kind of getting his engine kind of revved up. By the fifth round or sixth round, he started to pick up the pace of the fight, and he more or less prevailed in the middle rounds. And by the 10th round, Ali was more or less ready to be staked out in the sun. He was he was sitting in his corner with his arms against the ropes and his head on a swivel, and he was in utter exhaustion. There was a rumor that Ali had told Angelo that he wanted to quit. Now, I don't think that was true, and many people who were there have discounted that. But it's a rumor that's persisted. I don't think there's anything to it. I don't think Angelo would ever let Ali quit in the corner at that point. But you have to remember, the temperature in Manila that morning was 112 degrees in the ring.
Yeah.
With high television lights, hot television lights.
Yeah.
Strewn across the top of the ring. So they were basically being broiled as they were fighting.
Yeah.
And it was a very fatiguing fight.
Yeah.
Now the thing with Joe, if I might continue, he going into the fight, he had a lingering problem with his left eye. He was more or less sightless in that eye, and he was able to keep that more or less secret over the years. He had injured it as a young fighter, and it had gotten increasingly bad as the years passed. Now, in Ali, when he came out the 11th and 12th, he started finding Joe's right eye with those long right hands and jabs. And, Joe's right eye began to close. And so essentially what we had was a situation where Joe couldn't see out of either eye.
Yeah.
Well, as exhausted as Ali was, Joe was even in a more precarious situation, because the only way he could even basically find Ali and really pinpoint his punches, if you could call it that, was by hearing Ali breathe. So he followed Ali's breathing around the ring and tracked him that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he could see. So, and before the 15th round, Joe came back to his corner and told Eddie Futch, Futch said that he was going to stop it, and Joe said, "I've got him, boss. I've got him." And Futch said, "You couldn't see in the last 3 rounds. What makes you think you're going to be able to see in this round?" So, I mean, in what I think is one of the greatest acts of courage I've ever seen in the ring was Eddie Futch, standing between Joe and his potential demise. Joe didn't like that one bit. He was bitter about it for years, but Futch did the right thing.
So you concur that Futch did actually, it was the proper thing then, correct? That is your belief then, your analysis?
Absolutely. He couldn't see in the ring. He couldn't see. And he was also behind on points on all the scorecards. He needed a knockout.
Yeah.
It was very unlikely he was going to get it, although Ali was very tired too. But Ali was a smart enough fit fighter to stay out of the range of that. So it was basically a sightless man trying to pull the victory out, and it wasn't. It could have ended up a horror story.
Yeah.
So very few. The interesting thing about fighters is that, unlike other sports, is that when it's time to quit, whether it be it a career or in a game, you have someone that taps you on the shoulder and says it's all over. But boxing, that very seldom happens. Fighters are pretty much left to their own devices when it comes to making career decisions, and Joe was very fortunate that he had Eddie Futch in his corner.
Yeah, I mean, it was the magnificently humanitarian thing to do. I mean, I have seen the Thrill of Manila numerous times on film. That 14th round, Joe was basically defenseless. I mean, he had his hands down. I mean, he actually had to be helped back to his corner by the referee, Carlos Padilla and all that. It was just.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
He was finished, and he carried a lot of ill will towards Eddie for many years. But I think that it was his ego getting in the way of his good sense, And in the end, ultimately, as I point out in this book, he wrote Eddie a letter, basically absolving him of of a lot of the, his denying him his moment and actually thanking him for it. So it was a great moment. I think it fell along the lines of Joe kind of cleaning up all the loose ends in his life, and I think that he did that with Eddie.
That's a good thing. Now, interesting.
One other thing I'd add, Matthew, is that Eddie Futch had seen 7 fighters killed in the ring.
Right.
So he didn't want Joe. He loved Joe. He didn't want to see Joe. He said that if he had let Joe go out for the 15th, Joe's wife Florence would be arranging a funeral.
Right.
So there you have it.
Plus, you have a fine young son and Marvis, a daughter. I forget how many kids Joe had. I know he had Marvis and a daughter and all that. They need their father too. It was truly the right thing.
Sure, Joe had a really lovely family, and he never handled his money too terribly well, but he certainly made enough of it during his career. But you know what? With him, it was never enough. Yeah. I think it was a source of a lot of bitterness that he harbored towards Ali, that Ali was ended up on the better end of financial deals than he did.
Yeah.
So there's a degree of jealousy and what have you, and the press milked it for 30 years or however long it was.
Yeah.
The press was always, kind of running go-between the two fighters, and Joe said this, Ali said this. What do you think of that? So it became kind of a stew pot, really. Ultimately, though, I think they ended up in a place of mutual respect and love. Yeah. As I point out in my last chapter of my book, they resolved a lot of their difficulties at a dinner that Ali's wife threw at a hotel in Philadelphia before the 2002 NBA All-Star game.
Wow.
And it's really quite an poignant scene. In fact, when I was writing it, put me in tears. In fact, many people who read it kind of ended up in tears. So,
yeah.
And Marvis had said it earlier. He said, for all of Pop's anger, he says, Pop really loves Ali. And I think it's true.
Yeah.
Life is muddy, and it certainly was muddy between those two.
Yeah. Now, the 3 official judges in the Thrilla Manila had Ali comfortably ahead when the fight was stopped after 14 rounds. Now, your father was at ringside. Did he ever tell you what his personal scorecard for the fight was? Did he ever tell you?
Only to the extent that he said that Ali had the fight in hand.
Okay.
I don't know that Dad necessarily kept notes that way, but he might have. I just don't know.
Okay, because it's interesting in that HBO sports documentary about the Thrilla Manila. There's film. AP writer Ed Schuyler said in that documentary. He said he had the fight dead even after 14, and Jerry Eisenberg stated in that same documentary. He said he gave Ali a 1-round lead. I mean, do you yourself have a personal scorecard for that fight? I mean, mine is 9 rounds to 5 for Ali. It was dead even after 10, and I gave Ali rounds 11 through 14. Do you have a personal scorecard for that fight?
Well, I would not. I wouldn't. Far be it from me to argue the point with Jerry Eisenberg, who I respect tremendously, and after all, he was there. And he's far more knowledgeable about the fight game than I am. But to my eye, I thought that the margin was a bit larger than 1 round.
Okay.
But again, you can't judge a fight by television. It's hard to do, impossible to do, really. You don't see. You're only seeing a flat screen. You're not seeing what exactly is going on in the ring. So, that's why so many fights that seem controversial maybe not necessarily are. But I do think that the only scorecard that mattered was Eddie Futch's, and he was of the belief that that the fight was unwinnable.
Okay. Mark, in a 2001 documentary titled Ali, Through the Eyes of the World, your father, may God rest his soul, made the following remark on camera, quote, Ali went to Manila as an is, but left as a was. The game was over. It was all over. He knew it. Mark, based on your research, did your father get it right when it came to what happened to Ali and, by extension, to Joe Frazier after that fight?
Oh, yeah. It was very much spot on what Dad said about that. In his book, which is a somewhat controversial book, which was he took a scalpel to their 3-fight rivalry, and the two fighters called Ghost of Manila, which came out a year before Dad's death in 2001. He began it by saying Ali and Frazier went to Manila as champions and came home as old men. And I think that is a fair assessment of things. Both of them had no business getting in the ring again, but both of them were always on the prowl for paydays, and money, and attention, and it got the better of them. Particularly Ali.
Yeah.
Joe, had it beat into him a second time by Foreman, but even then he came back in 1980 and fought Jumbo Cummings in some, terrible fight outside in Chicago, and it was a draw, but it shouldn't have been a draw. Joe should have lost it. And he was flabby, and it was terrible to see him in that respect. Ali, as you know, took one beating after the next. So they had no business getting in the ring after Manila, and you could make a case, honestly, that they had no business getting into the ring after their first fight. After the first fight, But economics, they made more money in that first fight than any fighter has ever made for a sporting event, $2.5 million.
Yeah.
So the money was rolling in, so who could resist that, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, can you imagine in today's market what it would be? I mean, because that was $1971. Imagine putting it in today's dollars. It would be off the scale.
Oh, gosh, yes. I mean, you're seeing it today. I mean, Tyson is talking about coming back and fighting Floyd Mayweather, of all things. These aren't fights, athletic events. They're basically entertainment vehicles that it's beyond me that the public has an appetite to buy it, but they do, and they will. It's just one of the many strange and awful things about the country as we know it.
I know. I mean, I've seen a couple of Tyson Fury's fights, like with DeWild, whatever his name was. It's not even boxing anymore. It's like two oversized guys grappling. It's more wrestling than boxing. I don't see any footwork, no technique, no real combinations.
Joe used to call UFC it looked like two men having sex. It appeals to the bloodlust of the crowds, and it reaches people in a very primitive way. These sorts of encounters, and it doesn't interest me in the slightest.
Yeah, me neither.
But it certainly has an audience. They've made a fortune on those fights.
Yeah.
It's barbaric in my view, but I think boxing is. We'll never see it become what it once was.
Yeah.
I think its day is over.
Yeah.
It's just not. It was always a sport for the lower classes, for immigrants, for people to climb up the social ladder in whatever way they could, find some respect and some money, and but there are other avenues now. So it's kind of it's past its day.
Yeah. Mark, do you consider The Thrilla Manila the greatest of the Ali-Frazier trilogy? Yes or no?
Well, I think, for moment, I think that the first fight probably outstripped it to some extent.
Yeah.
Because of the fact is that both fighters were undefeated. You had Ali carrying the Vietnam baggage into the ring. You had Joe, basically embraced by white America, and believe me, that was not his desire. He didn't, but they did because they thought that he was, as I say, likely to, tear Ali apart. So you had that. You had stars from entertainment, politics, the literary world. Over 700 press credentials were issued for the fight. I mean, the limousines were parked 8 deep outside of Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
It was a moment. I think it was unmatched as any sporting events of the last century. I think it was unmatched. I didn't see Louis Schmeling. I'm sure that had that created just as much of a rapid pulse in the American people, but in my lifetime, I can't imagine any event surpassing that. Given that all the ingredients were in play, all the ingredients were in play. So, but Manila, it was handicapped because it happened on the other side of the world. But one other thing I will say about the fights of that time, the newspapers, as I say, there were 700 credentials. Many of the papers sent their not only a columnist or 2 columnists, but a boxing writer and maybe a feature writer, and they all descended upon the fight camps, and they were all writing. I know the Philadelphia Daily News, before the big fights, would have, for 10 days leading up to the fight, they would have 2 and 3 stories in the paper every day.
Yeah.
So so it stirred a great conversation. What does Larry Merchant think? What does Stan Hochman think? What does Tom Cushman think? They all had different takes, and they were all brilliant writers, brilliant sports writers who really captured the fighters and their times, and it's irreplaceable. We have nothing like that today. That's
correct.
All been kind of siphoned out of the business. We have nothing like that. When I was writing the Frazier book, it was such a delight going back into the archives and reading the work of all these people, and very astonishing. And also, I'm a bit saddened by the fact that we no longer have that sort of situation anymore.
I mean, print journalists, back then, 50 years ago, there was, in the 60s, 70s, there really was print journalism, newspapers. Add your father to that mix, too. May God rest his soul, in-depth analysis, it was art, it was an art form. It was the new journalism and all that,
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was really it was 50 years ago. Can you imagine? It was a whole different country.
Yeah, whole different world.
Country. But, you had a lot of unrest in the country then, as you do now, but, and you had, journalistically, you had strong voices, not just on the sports page, but on, the news pages. Yeah. Who held politicians and everyone they wrote about to their feet to the fire.
That's right.
And today it's very much in control of corporations, and corporations have a very low tolerance for independent thought. And that's what we're missing mostly.
I know.
And so there you have it.
I concur completely. Mark, are you working on any book projects right now?
Not book projects, but we have in the works a documentary, film documentary on on the 3 Ali-Frazier fights. We have the financing in place and the director and the various elements in place, and we're going to be shooting very soon on that. So it hasn't been done before, oddly enough. I mean, there have been documentaries, but there hasn't been a documentary that's focused on the all 3 fights.
Ooh.
So.
Okay.
You know, that's pretty much what I'm preoccupied by myself. Other than that, I'm kind of in semi-retirement, if you will.
Where will the documentary be aired? Which channel? What venue will we see it on? Can you tell us, please?
Well, that's unclear right now.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to get it set up in that direction. But we will shoot it. It will happen. And at that point, we'll have a better idea of, who the ultimate buyer of the project's going to be.
I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Mark, I want to thank you so much, and I wish you the best of luck in your endeavors. And Mark, thank you for the 3 appearances on the show there, just talking about those 3 epic fights there. It was a great honor and privilege.
Wonderful, Matthew. You're a good man. Thank you so much.
May God bless and keep you always.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for next week's show where I'll be interviewing author Jeff Kisseloff. Thank you and good night.